Hey, all, welcome to The Defiant Spirit. I'm Baruch Levy, also known as B. I want to share with you a podcast that just dropped on my multiple channels. I do the Defiant Spirit podcast by myself. I do Soul Centered with Ariel, my wife, and I do the Meaning Academy with my good friend and brother, Dr. Daniel A. France. He gets mad when I don't say his full name. So this one's for you, Dr. Dan. So we just dropped this podcast on, I called it Why I'm a Spiritual Mut. And it's about where I am in life, but so many people that I guide, I would argue we are mostly spiritual mutts in this day and age. It's very hard to be a religious purebred. For a while, I was a rabbi. I was, sort of. I was never walking the straight and narrow. I got to be honest. I've always been blurring the lines, playing at the edges. To me, that is where the interesting stuff in life happens, is the edges of identity. Hybrids. I had a teacher once who said, really the most interesting people and places to be are the hybrids, right? That space between what does it mean to be a Christian and an American, or as for myself, an American and a Jew, that dash in between there, or, spiritual and religious. I don't buy this, I'm spiritual, not religious. I think it's a hybrid of these kind of opportunities and identities. We're in an era where identities are falling apart. The old sort of ways that we do business, that we identify in all kinds of areas, are crumbling. And sometimes I think that the crumbling is good, not all of it, but a lot of it, because our old beliefs start to kind of come crumbling down. And as long as we're not scared to move forward into the unknown, in this uncharted territory, and we take with us our core values and our commitment to what we know and hold to be important and true, we'll find our way. I certainly have. I have gone through many iterations of religious and spiritual identity, and today I'm a spiritual mutt. And what does that mean? I draw upon best practice. Here's my litmus test for whether I'll incorporate it into my life, my spiritual practice, my daily practice. Does it work? Is it good? I don't really care where it came from. I don't care who else practices it. Does it work? And is it good? Just because it works doesn't always mean it's good. And just because it's good, and I mean that at the deepest level, like constructive, do no harm, just good. It has to meet both of those criteria. But if it does, I use it all day long. And so, I draw from many traditions. Certainly my bread and butter and my soil from which I've grown out of is Judaism, and particularly Kabbalah. I still consider myself a Kabbalist and a teacher of Kabbalah, and I've incorporated it into everything I'm doing, because Kabbalah isn't parochial, doesn't require membership. You don't have to affirm any belief. I would argue Kabbalah is a blueprint of divinity. It's the most, as far as I found, it's the most sophisticated way to explain the soul, to explain the world, to explain the divine. So one example is, from a Kabbalistic mystical perspective, you don't have a soul. You have souls. You have layers of soul. There's the lowest layer called nefesh, and it's where we meet the world, and it's our life force. And then the next layer up, and then the next layer up from that, it goes ruach, sort of an emotional psyche soul, and then neshama, which we usually think is almost an ethereal soul, and then layers beyond that. But the bottom line is, I draw from that and I see the world through that lens. Then I'll go into a yoga class. I'm doing yoga a lot these days, and really believe deeply in the asanas, in the movement process of finding my way to the divine through body movement. The tradition I grew up in, Judaism, really didn't have a body movement practice. It had a mental and in a heart, emotional and spiritual component, but not a body component. So I've turned to yoga. You might turn to Tai Chi, or maybe your Sufi dance, or whatever it is. But we need all of these things. They all have their place. And so I find myself daily now drawing upon yoga and Hinduism, and studying Hinduism, not just sort of the what's that, the yoga place around the country, Core Power, right, where they've sort of distilled the exercise component of it, but really lost the spiritual essence. And so doing a lot of study around Hinduism and the tradition out of which yoga comes from. Ariella, my wife, is deep into shamanism, and she's really taught me a tremendous amount about the astral plane and healing myself beyond the physical body. And for 25, 30 years now, I've sat daily in Buddhist meditation practice. Always been a huge fan of Buddhism. Some of my profound teachers like Rinpoche Trungpa are or were Buddhists. And so drawing a tremendous amount upon that. And Catholic mysticism. I mean, I really believe deeply that this has roots in Catholic mysticism, as it does in Kabbalah, but I believe much more in alignment with Catholic mysticism. And I mean, just learning so much about my life and how to navigate the world through understanding the foundational components of Catholic mysticism and the Enneagram. So again, bottom line is weaving all of this together. Now, it can be scary for people. Sometimes people have a hard time. They say, you're a rabbi, right? Okay, fine. If you need, a lot of people who still listen to me and follow me still need me to be that rabbi. I don't really care. It's a piece of who I am. It's just not who I am. It's a persona. It's a mask. We all wear masks. And sometimes I do wear the rabbi mask. Not really, not anymore. But I'm not opposed to it. It's just, at some point our masks need to be lifted, and that's scary. I get it. I get why people are threatened by not having the old sort of black and white fit in the box. And yet the truth is the people that sit on my couch that I guide, nobody really wants to be put into a box, even if you identify as an observant Jew or as an observant Christian, a faithful Christian. I don't meet anybody in that chair who doesn't want to push the edges of that box, to expand that box so that it isn't a box. It's a platform to launch off into the world. And really, that's the podcast that we talk about. Dr. Dan and I lean heavily on Viktor Frankl. One of the reasons why I lean on Frankl and his work logotherapy is because it's grounded in what he calls nous, just a Greek word for psyche or spirit, as a platform, as a jumping off point. And no other schools of psychotherapy up until that point incorporated it. I mean, Jung arguably did, but not explicit. For Frankl, it's explicit. You must have nous or spirit at the center of your life, because nous or spirit is really what is at the heart of healing. And that's why it's called psychotherapy. Psyche in ancient Greece was the soul. That's literally what it means, the soul. And so it's therapy is therapia is healing. So it's healing through soul. How can you heal, right? If you don't have that deep, call it whatever you want, that deeper place within you that you can draw upon, that you can turn to, that source of healing. I always likened it as trying to cool yourself by doing a fan, right? Fanning yourself. You actually can't cool yourself because you're moving as much and creating as much energy as you're trying to eliminate. You need an outside fan, an outside air conditioner, an outside source to cool you off. And that's really what I think of as the soul, to draw upon that outside, or that, in this case, the inside source of healing, to go to that place and bring it back into my life. And those are different pathways as a spiritual mutt that I have to access that spirit. And again, whether it's Buddhism or Hinduism or shamanism or Native American traditions or Judaism or Christianity or Catholicism, the list goes on and on. I don't think it matters. There are many truths, lowercase t, to the one truth, capital T, to the one, to the universe, universe, one song that we're all moving towards. And however you get there, just get there. Find your practice from wherever it comes from, incorporate it into your life. Because the one thing I do challenge people on all the time is I'm spiritual and not religious, which usually is code for I don't do anything. I just feel my way to the oneness. Doesn't work in anything in life. I'm not interested in working out. I'm just healthy, right? No, you actually got to do the thing. You got to engage in the process. You got to invest yourself. So pick some paths. Don't just pick a path, right? If you have one, great. Geh gesundheit, as we say in Yiddish, go and be well. But for most of us, unchurched, unsynagogued, out in the world, this is an exciting time where we get to be, well, spiritual mutts. The days of, I think, purebred religion are coming to an end. And there will be carriers of the torch in Judaism and in Christianity, and I bless them. I want them to carry the torch of that purity of religion. But I also believe that there's a place for mutts like me, spiritual mutts like you. So that's it. Listen to the podcast. Join me in the quest to create a community of spiritual mutts where we can weave best practice together as we all find these small T truths to the capital T truth, and we ultimately heal ourselves and heal the world through getting back in touch with our nous, with our soul. I'll see you in the next video.